the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to episode 249 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. Today, we're going to be talking with Catherine Palacios of Done Deal Costa Rica. Basically, it's a company that helps locals but mainly, I would say, expats with financing options in Costa Rica. They kind of do a lot of the analysis beforehand, making sure you have all the documentation in place, because if anybody knows, Costa Rica is complicated, and getting financing here is even more complicated. So they work with multiple different banks, private and also public lending options that you have there. So we're going to be talking to her today about those options, financing in Costa Rica, just kind of sharing her knowledge of just how to make the process easier. Remember, guys, we have a variety of investment opportunities here available at the moment in Manuel Antonio and also Arenal. We're about to finish our first project in Manuel Antonio of 6 luxury villas. So very interesting. And it's actually been incredible. I think we have like $250,000 of future reservations already in that place, and we haven't even finished. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But as I said, I kind of always feel like I'm cheating just because we kind of plug it into the network here and it fills up. So probably also helps that we had a great architect, and also the location is pretty stunner as well. But again, we just look at data and just kind of it really points the direction, data. And I would also say my gut on where we should basically be developing in Costa Rica. Somebody asked me the other day whether they should be looking at Guanacaste, and I said you can, but I think that there are certain locations that are overheated, in my opinion, and you're going to start to see prices come down. And I think, as you guys have probably been aware by now, it's now kind of more of a buyer's market than it is a seller's market. So, but anyway, if you're looking to do anything here in Costa Rica, guys, we have a relocation department. We have an investing and real estate department here as well. Even if you just want some help and kind of direction or contacts, feel free to reach us, info@investingcostarrica.com. That's info@investingcostarrica.com. Or alternatively, all of our contact details are in the description down below. You can organize a time to meet with some of the people here on the team. Again, no obligation. We're sucker for helping people, really, guys, and people don't lose money on our watch. So yeah, just reach out. Don't hesitate. Again, you've got nothing to lose. But anyway, let's get straight into the podcast. Good morning, Catherine. How are you doing?
Doing great, Richard. How are you?
Very, very good. It looks a very tropical scene that you have behind you there.
Thank you.
Whereabouts are you?
What?
Whereabouts are you? Where do you live?
Oh, I live in San Jose, Costa Rica, but
Yep.
right now I'm in France. Yes.
Wow, you're in France.
Yeah, I took a little break after the high season in Costa Rica.
Wow, I literally just got back this Monday from France. So
Oh, really?
I usually spend about 2 months a year in France, I would say. So
It's getting warmer now, a little warmer, the
yeah, the
climate.
weather was very good. But well, Catherine, thanks very much for joining us. My first question for you, Catherine, is I'd like to get an understanding of kind of what you're seeing happening. Kind of, I mean, there's a lot of volatility in Western markets at the moment. I'm definitely sure that that's here to stay. But what are you seeing happening in Costa Rica? And also, is that like, have you seen your workload decrease? It's about the same. It's increased. Give us an idea of what you're seeing.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me. Before diving into the specific real estate and banking in Costa Rica, it's important to highlight the fact that we have a different scenario for foreigners visiting our country before pandemic and after pandemic. So before pandemic, we had the typical foreigner who wanted to retire. And now it's more common to see people wanting to relocate as we appreciate more open spaces and the climate and the friend lines. And so the people much more. So regardless the global situation, I believe that families' plans or dreams remain unchanged. And sometimes it's better to wait a little bit, or perhaps good opportunities might arise to make the move all at once. So you never know.
Yeah. And how is your volume of work? I mean, how long have you had Done Deal Costa Rica, Catherine? How long has it been around?
Oh, Don Diego Costa Rica has been around 7 months ago.
Okay,
So
okay.
personally, yeah.
But I mean, based on the market, do you think the market is slowing down? It's moving towards a buyer's market. I mean, what do you think is happening in the real estate industry in Costa Rica at the moment?
We have a little contraction in the first 2 weeks of April.
Yep.
To be honest, a few clients were wanting to hold on the decision to purchase, but I think that having the financing is a key factor now to be able to for the families to achieve their plans
Yep.
and goals.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, it's financing used to not really, it was possible but not really. It's very complicated, but it's amazing how many banks now are very open to lending to foreigners. I think that kind of what happened was the 2007 2008 kind of crisis. A lot of banks, Banca Nacional, etc., who were lending kind of got caught with their pants down and ended up with all these assets that they couldn't really do anything with, so everyone got very shy. But now it seems to have loosened up. But I mean, what should people understand now about financing in Costa Rica? Like, what's the reality of it?
Thank you. And the illustration of 2008, I think it's a is a great point to see how we have been wanting to develop the financing for foreigners and then step back and then something happens and then pandemic and then so it's been like a tango. But
Yep.
people really need to understand that Costa Rica mortgage market is proportional to the size of our country, meaning we're small. And our market, it is small. So to continue illustrating the 2008, what happens is that it's just simply not the same to resell a luxury property to a wealthy family in Costa Rica coming from a wealthy family in the US, especially if there were many properties sold to foreigners were abandoned. So exactly as you were telling, some banks were shy. But another important aspect is that Costa Rica, like some is it might be very basic about the geographic position of Costa Rica, but often it's overlooked. I think it's very important to understand that we are in a breach of Central America, which carries a high risk for drug trafficking. So that is why our regulators are extremely strict
Yeah.
when it comes to source of funds. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that's bought property in Costa Rica or done business in property definitely understands is the regulation, SUHEF regulation, anti-money laundering. I mean, even for us that move money in Costa Rica, I mean, any large sums and they're like, where is that money coming from? What's your documentation? So it's just, yeah, it's they're just trying to keep an eye on everything. But so I mean, but in general, Kathy, I mean, people listening on this that are potentially looking for financing, wanting to know an option. I mean, do all banks in Costa Rica lend to foreigners?
They do all lend to foreigners, but they do not all lend to foreigners without an immigration status, Richard. So,
Okay.
but they do, like most of private banks do lend for non-residents. So I think that going a little back on the previous question, for local banks, we are facing two challenges. So banks are wanting to come closer to the foreigners,
Yep.
but we are still, and me as a banker, I mean, we are facing two very specific challenges, very clear, that I have also discussed and shared with my colleagues whenever I get the opportunity. And one is the operational process, and the other one is the property eligibility criteria, uh, which are not tailored for rural areas. And what are foreigners wanting to live in? They are not wanting to necessarily come to live to San Jose. They want
Yep.
to live where the nature is.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not easy to explain, but for example, in the property criterias, maybe a beautiful house up in the hill in the mountain might be not such a risk appetite for a bank.
Yep.
So for the banks, and this is where the municipalities and the government come to also be a key factor as well, because they have to make sure that we are starting to develop better roads as much clients are coming to move into these areas, and not only like the comfort zone of the banks is wanting to only lend in gated communities,
Yep.
right? So for us as a company, what we're trying to put together is to support our clients and accompany them to try to choose to house hunt with confidence after they understand the full criteria and the protocols of houses in terms of I'm sorry of banks in terms of houses, and also trying to explain our banks when we submit a file, the structure and the family goals and the family income structure.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that like the banks only want to lend in kind of more gated communities. I suppose they see it as more as a safe investment. But my question here is, I don't know, let's say Uvita in the mountains of Uvita up there with an ocean view and stuff. I mean, a bank's going to lend on a piece of land or a house there?
Ye- I would say yes, because the willingness is there,
Yep.
but they will, as it's not so common, like
Yep.
they want to have the standard to be able to resell
Yep.
easily in case of a default or, disclosure. But we will have to mitigate this risk of a different type of property,
Yeah.
highlighting the strongest aspects of our borrower, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, so how would someone go about, I don't know, say that someone's fallen in love with a property in the mountains of Avita, they want to go and get lending. I mean, how do they go about? Because, I'm so glad that a service like yours exists, Catherine. And, I'm not just saying that because I've got you here on the podcast. I'm just saying is like, I've been through the process myself here in Costa Rica when I bought my house. And it was a pain in the butt for me, and that's with the bank I bank with and have banked with for 20 years. But I think it's just more of like, I think people need to understand that the bank is going to ask for the same document probably three times in three different ways. There's just going to be a lot of requests for documentation from you. So, I mean, I suppose the question here is how do you make this easier for people?
Well, first of all, I have to say, and I always tell my clients, to have a bank in the middle to accept the house as a collateral is a huge advantage, because um, you actually don't really need to do a due diligence and hire someone else to do the inspection and do the legal, because the banks already have their own legal inspections, and they do have also their appraisers. So we created a criteria list. For example, water permits. It's not the same to have a well. It's not the same to have a SADA or a letter from AIA, right? So we try to keep on track. And the reason why I wanted to illustrate the luxury house from a wealthy family from the US abandoned in 2008 to be resale to a Costa Rican family is because, for example, some of the restrictions in the bank's criteria for a property is the size of the house. So sometimes they're like, come on, I'm purchasing a house in a really high-end,
Yep.
luxury condominium is $5 or $7 million. How come the bank only be able to lend me only $1.5 million? It doesn't make any sense. Well, try to bring it to a small market and resell it to a wealthy family in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Wealthy family in Costa Rica, what is wealthy family in Costa Rica purchasing? They're purchasing houses 3 million, 4 million maximum, not 7, 8, 9, 10
And
million, right?
and we're talking a very like 0.01% of the population here in Costa Rica is
Yeah.
paying, that amount of money. I mean, I'd probably say the average house price in Costa Rica is probably around about $120,000 or something. I'm pulling
Mhm.
that number out, but it's not in the millions, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That this is why I wanted to start saying people need to understand where they are purchasing is geographically where we're at and why
Yep.
we're so restricted, and also the market is small. For example, I've heard of a market in the US or in Canada, the mortgages to be resale to Wall Street, but
Yep.
that doesn't happen here. I mean, the bank will take all the risk to
Yep.
call it in a sense, and also keep in mind that, for example, from the lender point of view, if you are lending to a foreigner, there is no way, like, how would I notify you if something happens? Like, how would I reach out to you if you're
Yeah.
not actually living in the country? So it's a little works a little different in perspective of risk. All I'm saying is banks have the willingness to do business. They might lend to this beautiful house that you're describing, but probably 30% LTV, maximum 50% LTV, because you're also a great client,
Yeah.
and you also have a relationship with the bank, with bank accounts or a certain type of investments besides the relationship starting with a loan.
So you mentioned something there, the loan to values, the LTV there. I mean, what is a typical LTV and also what is the typical interest rate? Because usually the interest rate is what, scares people or they're not used to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another key factor. So yeah, typically loan to value ratios around 50 to 70%. What I've seen maximum 75%, though it really depends on the borrower profile. And you mentioned the interest rate, average from 8 to 10%. And another aspect you must consider is no bank in Costa Rica is going to lend you on fixed rates. we don't have fixed rates for the whole period. We do have 2 times in the year for Costa Rican market. It is Costa Rican market, and this is why I'm saying banks have the challenge to improve their operational process of Costa Ricans to lend to Americans in an American way, you know.
Yep.
So, for example, this is something people don't know that I always like to tell my clients is we have 2 seasons for hunting houses in Costa Rica, which is the Expo Feria in February and the Expo House in August. So normally they have like a housing exposition. They invite developers, builders, and some designers put together in a I don't know if you have you ever heard of this ferias going on. So
Yeah.
they invite all the
Yeah.
banks as well, and then people can shop around, and they have the best deals on starting rates like for 90 days or so. And then people like the market goes down a little bit and it sleeps until August, which is the second time for a housing expo in the year. But it's not the same with Americans or with foreigners, because Americans or foreigners, I'm sorry, they come to Costa Rica, they fall in love with the country, they go out and they start realizing, oh, is there any financing available? So they start having conversations with us, which we are flexible on our schedules to assist their inquiries and to be able to advise them. But yeah, and keep in mind also that when it comes to rates, if you're like if you're comparing rates, only rates, um, you have to also think of the purpose of the investment. So you have to include, don't be scared about the variable rates, because for 2 reasons. Number one, because you will compare it to the ROI of the investment. So if you have a property in a in a well spot to be able to have a good capital gain, you shouldn't worry, because in the resale you will have your capital gain. And number two, as well as you are calculating the property tax and the expenses of the house, you will and the interest rate, you are also adding the ROI to have it in a good rental income.
Yeah. Which banks are the easiest to work with, Catherine? Because they're not all the same.
No, they're definitely not all the same, but this is a very interesting question, Richard. So, what I believe is honestly, all of them and none of them.
Okay.
Sorry, but it's the truth. What is
I
important
understand
is,
that.
yeah, understanding. I think that what is really important is to understand how things work internally, and knowing your own profile as a borrower. So most bank operates like a cookie production line. The person who mixes the dough isn't it the same one decorating the the cookie
Yep.
at the end.
Yep.
So basically, to call it like this, I think that a client file goes through between 4 to 6 different stages within the bank process. So presenting the complete pre-analyzed file in our end makes the process smoother. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but is there a bank like a private banks like La FISE, Bank San Jose easy to deal with, and Banco Nacional and Banco Costa Rica?
I think we pretty much have contacts with all of the banks. I know
Yep.
that BCR, Banco Nacional, they lend to foreigners with the formal immigration status,
Okay.
and so all the
So the
private banks.
the
Mhm.
public banks here will not lend to anyone that's not a resident of Costa Rica. So
Correct.
okay, but the private banks will.
The private banks will 65% LTV, variable rate, but variable rate is the same as for Costa Rica, as
Yeah.
if you were Costa Rican, and they're very competitive in terms of as much as they can. Like another aspect, when I was telling you a few minutes ago about the challenges that we face as a bankers in Costa Rica to lend to foreigners, I have another example to illustrate it. For example, the PSA. The PSA for a Costa Rican is 3 months to be able to close the deal, and there is not a specific like due diligence period of time, because it's normal that the bank will take care of this due diligence period of time. So normally the PSAs that you signed is based on if you are subject or not to financing. If the bank's approved, it's okay. If the bank is not approving in 90 days, then nobody loses no
Yep.
down payment, to call it like this, but reservation. But for Americans, you have, I'm sorry to say Americans, I mean foreigners in general, the PSAs are 45, or even I've seen 30 days due diligence. So it's just simply not matching with the process of 6 weeks which is takes normally to have a mortgage in Costa Rica. So really need to make an effort, whether the brokers or the real estate market start doing a little changes to have more extended term on the PSA, or whether the banks come to a shorter process of mortgage internally to be able to close the deal
Yeah.
before 6 weeks, which is taking approximately.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, typically, when we have clients that purchase real estate, I mean, they're usually closing, due diligence is 30 days and closing in 45 days. But I mean, I think if you're going to look at lending, you probably need to extend it out at least 3 months.
Yep, that's always my advice. And I know that for well, and this is another thing. Always, Costa Rican real estate market is being seen from foreigners as a pan caliente market. Like, okay, no, everybody's pushing to do the deal as soon as possible. But I think that now we have enough inventory coming in to
Yep.
be delivered in the next 24 months or so, and we're now having a game of pre-selling, which will give us time to be able to pre-assess the files and have client, like in a fast track underwrite to be able to just select the bank and be able to move faster, which is what we do, right?
Catherine, I've heard a lot of clients say, hey, no, I'm pre-approved by the bank for X amount of money here. And I'm like, dudes, don't believe that. Like pre-approved here, like you actually, like, is that real or is that not? Because usually a lot of the time is they'll go through the process and then get denied.
Oh, really?
And they'll be like, hey, I was pre-approved. And I was like, no, you weren't pre-approved. What they did was they sent you basically like a pro forma of what they could lend against to what, and then the rates. They didn't say that you're pre-approved. They just gave you an idea of what lending would look like.
Yeah, well, one of the banks has the process for pre-evaluation, and they will issue a formal pre-approval letter.
Okay.
And the banks that I work with normally are very formal, but like exactly what we do is to actually process and pre-assess to have the pre-evaluation, because we're not a bank, but what we're actually offering is to have the client to be we work as pre-underwriting based on international ratios and Costa Rican parameters. So from our service, each client will receive not only the results, but the full understanding and the report to be empowered of their own finances, including even financial planning. So but keep in mind that normally if an advisor will come to you with a pre-evaluation or pre-approval, demand a letter, request a formal letter stating, and
Yeah.
signed by the banker saying that you really are. And number two, also keep in mind that you might be eligible, but there are other factors that might change the results at the end, such as life insurance, such as the appraisal. So if it's all based on um, financial eligibility, I could say that keep a good FICO score and keep the down payment minimum at 35 percent, and keep a good score also on your company business or job history more than 2 years should give you a good a good profile to be
Yeah.
eligible for any banks. Those are like the standards.
Catherine, I mean, basically, I mean, you've worked in banks before, you've worked in lending, you kind of came out to the private sector, created this company of what you guys do basically is give me all your documentation. Let me kind of run through everything first, get it all in order so that I can tell you what you're eligible for, what you think you can get, what your rates are going to be, and which banks basically, it's kind of like I wouldn't say a mortgage broker, but kind of to an extent, like, but you're like looking at that pre-approval stuff beforehand. But because the process is a lot more complicated here than it is, again, it takes 90 days to do it. If you just make sure that it's served up to the banks with like a bow, if that makes sense on it, so that they're not going to ask questions, they have everything that they need. But also is that you're not wasting the client time, you're not wasting the bank time trying to put through an application that is not going to get approved.
Yeah, exactly, Richard, because to give you another example, the banks are wanting to lend for NERs, so they pull out a list of requirements, but the full list of requirements are very standard. So when you
Yep.
file, when you present all the documentation, these all go to the 6 different,
Down the
cookie
cookie
line
line.
production,
Yep.
right? And then they come to the end to an analysis, and none of it says anything about the character of the client or the client profile. So normally the analysis will come back with questions, and the questions will delay because coming back to the line is other applications before. So
Yeah.
this is what normally comes to be painful. So what we do is that with our 20 years of experience, we bring both analytical insights and commercial acumen to every deal, acting as a one-stop shop. We have created our own scoring. For example, we do a benchmark to begin with. Okay, so you want to purchase in Costa Rica with financing. What type of property are you looking for, and what's your budget? And then we try to match clients' expectations to the actual Costa Rican market. And then we settle into a report. You will receive from us 2 reports. One is the benchmark explaining about not only the rates, we go deeper. We explain to clients that not all the banks lend in this, even they lend in USD, they're not lending with the same reference rate. It's not the same to lend with the software than with the New York Prime or with the 3, for
Yep.
example. So we try to empower our clients to really understand what they're signing in. And then also we guide them through the penalties, what happened after the the fixed rate term, like if can I switch one mortgage to another bank? What happens if I want to do
Yeah.
extra amortization? So we basically we empower clients with clarity, confidence, and we support them gather all the paperwork, matching clients with the bank's lender, and like the rest of the parties. And then we also help them if they need to translate or clarify impartially. Like, okay, Katy, so this bank is telling me this response. What do you think? Then we will, okay, it's a life insurance matter. We will go to speak to the insurance law in Costa Rica. What are your, as a consumer, what are your rights? And if this, we try to put everything in the impartial point of view to try to really empower the client in the whole process and to accompany beginning to end until
Yeah.
closing day.
Well, fantastic. Question: how much does it cost? How do you guys make money?
Thank you. So our fee is a structure is transparent. We typically charge a flat fee, which is 1,200 US dollars,
Yep.
or depending, because we're also doing business financing advising, but it will depend. We might charge, it depends on the complexity of each deal. We might charge an extra percentage at the end, depending on the time, but normally is for a second home retail mortgage standard 1,200,
Okay.
1,200. Yep.
Personally, I think for the stress that it would remove from someone is well worth it. And I say that having done it myself as a citizen of the country now. So I would highly suggest anyone looking for finance to reach out to Catherine. Again, all of your details are down in the description down below. But Catherine, we've kept you long enough, but my last question for you. If you inherited $500,000 and you had to invest it in business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you invest it in and why?
Well, great question. With 500,000, what would I do? Instead of really going on a vacation, just kidding. I think I would purchase a small boutique hotel or Airbnb ready property
Yep.
in a high tourism area, like for example, Nozara, Santa Teresa, Manuel Antonio. Those are really hot spots right now, or pre-construction real estate areas like Tamarindo or Ubita, where appreciation potential is very strong. So
Okay. Awesome.
yeah.
Well, Catherine, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here. All of your contact details in the description for anyone that's looking for finance or wants to understand a little bit more about financing in Costa Rica. Again, I think this is the first time I've ever seen a service particularly like this. There's another service out there that does it, but they only work with La Fisi and they charge their fees as a percentage and it's very expensive. I think that this is very, very affordable, to be honest with you, Catherine. And I'm glad that you guys are doing this stuff for people. So yeah, I just want to say thanks very much for joining us on the podcast. And again, anyone that wants to get in contact with you, all the descriptions are down below.
Thank you, Richard. And to close line, I would like to also appreciate your time and to having me in the podcast. But for those people wanting to purchase with financing, I also might say that we are saving time and money, because applying for a mortgage in Costa Rica involves you to disburse money for appraisal and sometimes income structures such as CPA. So I think that our fee is very competitive to have all the answers up front in less than 48 hours.
I agree.
And then also will empower you, like if this is not the time, because sometimes, like to be honest on the expectations, if this is not the right time for you to purchase, we will include a section for financial planning where we will assist you and say, okay, you maybe want to sell your car. Or we do a financial planning, like what do you want to do, and what, like we have this space to listen to the client's needs and what do they want to do in the future. So we also bring closer the steps to better their score if it's needed, or whatever steps they might need to take to be able to make it a reality in the future. So it's never a no as an answer.
Yeah. Well, Catherine, thanks very much again. And I'm sure a bunch of people will be reaching out to you.
Thank you, Richard. Have
Thanks
a
very much.
wonderful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Guys, very interesting podcast there with Catherine. And I do think it's a very good service and very, very affordable. I know another service in Costa Rica that does it, and they charge like 2 or 3% of the actual loan, which, I mean, on a $300,000 loan can be 6 to 9,000. So paying 1,200 for someone that actually worked in banks here, knows multiple like the processes, etc. She said the cookie line there. So I think if you're looking at financing in Costa Rica, I think it's great. Just reach out to those guys. All of their contact details are down, kind of in the description down below. But it's very nice to see that financing is, I would say, somewhat opening up here in Costa Rica. Again, it's not easy. Closing is usually 90 to 120 days, as you can see. Not all sellers want to wait that long either, but maybe some of them do. But yeah, it's a very interesting process here in Costa Rica. I'll say that, and very bureaucratic. But guys, I appreciate you all listening to this podcast. I know a lot of you are reaching out. You guys are commenting on YouTube, on Spotify, and also on Apple. If you are, please subscribe, guys. Again, a lot of work and effort goes into making these, and it just kind of just reiterates, I mean, after 249 episodes here, just, we'll continue to give you this information that you guys need so you can make an informed decision. And I mean, people are still making mistakes out there. I see it all the time. I had a close friend yesterday call me about buying a piece of land that doesn't have water, electricity. And I said, guy, like, look, man, you're forcing this through. It's going to end in tears. I can already tell. I can tell you. And he's like, yeah, but the developer says that they're going to bring. I'm like, the developer says a lot of things, but like, you do not purchase and give them money until basically those things happen. So you just need to be very, very careful, because I said, look, otherwise you've got beautiful cattle land. And I had to explain to her what meant by that. But like, you've got no water, electricity. I mean, basically you can put cows on it. I mean, that's probably about it. I mean, there are other ways to do it, but then you get very, very complicated. But anyway, if you're looking to do anything here in Costa Rica, guys, remember you can reach out to us. It doesn't matter what it's for. Just if you want referrals, contacts, anything, we're here to help. info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. Or in the contact details down below is all of our contact details as well. You can meet with one of the guys here in the office, no obligation. Again, we're a sucker for helping people. We always have been, and we always will be. But anyway, till the next podcast, we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.